All right, everyone, welcome back to the Healthy Body Podcast. I'm your host, Brianna Wilkerson, and I'm just so excited today to continue our series talking basically about emotion, stress, and sleep. And today I have on with me Julia, who's just amazing at what she does. She's also a health practitioner, and she just has a lot of experience in this particular topic, and particularly exploring how your emotions, your belief system, and even something we'll talk about, childhood attachments, really affect your health. So thank you so much for joining us, Julia.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited.
Yes. So I would love for you to just kind of, before we dive into all the content, just share who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your story around this topic of emotions and belief system and childhood attachments.
Yeah, so I'll be happy to. The way it started for me is I went to college and I did a early childhood education diploma, and that's where I found out about attachment styles for the first time. But I didn't really give it much attention back then because it wasn't really, I didn't really connect health and attachment in any way. And then I progressed in my career, and I decided to do a degree in kinesiology and health sciences. And in that degree, we also talked about attachments a little bit, and I kind of started, connecting the dots. But it wasn't until I became a personal trainer, and I was working with, very different people from all walks of life, and I started noticing that there is a pretty direct relationship between our attachment, and I'll talk more about what those attachments are just to explain. But there's a very direct relationship between how we relate to ourselves, others, and the world, which is really what attachment is, and our health. So, for example, people who had good relationships, and they typically were, they had a loving family, they had friends, they had an easy way to interact with people. They knew how to interact with people well. They typically had a much higher success rate in my training. And then people who had relationship challenges, or they, either they were too overwhelmed with what other people were asking of them, or they didn't really have close relationships. And these people didn't do as well. And I was very curious about that. And I started researching and just trying to understand, okay, well, what's the connection here? Why is it that I train everybody, I give everybody the same level of attention, the same level of, care. And some people do well and they stay on track even after they stop training with me. And other people, they might do well during training together, but then as soon as they stop, they just fall off the wagon and, things reverse. So, and I've been just researching a lot of that. And at the same time, the way it all came about, I think it happens so often, is that I also had, I started noticing that I'm starting to burn out, and I couldn't understand why, because I had a lot of health education under my belt. I knew what to eat. I knew how to exercise. I knew how to manage my stress, and still I was feeling that I'm burning out. And actually it came to a point that I ended up with adrenal fatigue stage 3, which is just to give you a little bit of a context. Adrenal fatigue stage 4 is when the patient dies. So I was really burnt out. And so I ended up going deeper into my studies, because I was well, it doesn't make sense. How is it possible that I do all the right things, or at least that I think I'm doing all the right things, and I still ended up in this health crisis? So I basically expanded my education into holistic health coaching. And then I realized that it still wasn't enough, because even with that education, I still had trouble managing my energy. And that's where I really went back to attachment styles. That's it all clicked for me. And I realized that it really is about our emotions. It's how we are able to navigate the world, how we respond emotionally to everything that's happening in our lives, that dictates how our health goes. So that's sort of how came to explore it, research it, and then I created an entire program around that.
Yeah, I think that's quite amazing, because I think you nailed it on the butt. And anyone I think that really looks into the holistic thing is saying that it sees that it's not just what we eat. It's not just how we sleep. It's not just like, there's so much more to your health and your life than those, like your physical health. And that's kind of something that I try to share in my business too, that I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. What I loved about the school, it talked about what we eat is our secondary food, and our primary food is other things such as relationships, such as career, and all these different things. And it just really, what you're saying, it shows you that even you, like, you knew everything and you were actually doing all the right habits and all those, the strategies, but something else was really causing your health to kind of burn out. So maybe just share with us a little bit, as you personally dive deeper into childhood attachment styles and emotions, what did you find for yourself was the root causes? What, you could talk a little bit about the attachments and emotions there too, personally and just in general.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I love how you brought up the nutrition, that, food that we eat is secondary, and, relationships and career, all of that is. And what I found is that for some of us, so, okay, actually, what I want to do first, I'll just talk about the 4 attachment styles so that it's clearer, and then I'll share more.
Great.
So there's 4 attachment styles. First attachment style is called secure. And what this attachment style represents is, so when a child is born, when a baby is born, they have a very strong instinct to attach to their caregiver. And in secure attachment, that means that the caregiver was mostly available. They were safe to be around. They were attentive. They were like really attuned to the child's needs. So the child grew up feeling like really secure and heard and seen and understood. And as a result of that, they typically have a much easier time to manage their emotions. Like, they don't have ups and downs. They're typically pretty stable emotionally, and they're able to self-soothe very, very well. And they're able to, if they have some sort of a challenge, they're very resilient. And overall, and the way it impacts your health is that, well, yeah. What I find actually with people who have secure attachment is their health in terms of emotions is really good. And if they are unhealthy, it's typically because they just haven't learned healthy lifestyle practices. So they just haven't had, access to good information. That's really the only way their health can be impacted. Now, then the second attachment style is called avoidant attachment. And what happens with avoidant attachment is that when a child is born and they have the natural instinct to attach, the caregiver, being in a relationship with their caregiver is so stressful that they just rather not be in a relationship at all. So they basically decide, you know what, I don't really need anybody. I'm fine on my own. I'll take care of myself. And they kind of shut down emotionally. And they become very independent, which is great, but they just, they're not able to allow people close, because it causes them a lot of tension. And what happens with people with this attachment style is that they, even though they typically do really well in life, because they're so alone, they might have relationships, but because they're so alone on the inside, like emotionally alone, that also impacts their health. So that's the second one. Now, the third one is called anxious. Sometimes it's called ambivalent, but mostly it's called anxious attachment style. And in that situation, what happens is that the caregiver might have actually been a really kind of emotionally healthy, and it was like healthy kind of love, but they might have been preoccupied with something, or maybe they just weren't consistently emotionally available. And what happens to the child is that they get so focused on trying to get attention that it's almost like they disappear to themselves. Like, they don't see themselves anymore, and they only, like, their attention goes out to the other person. and they're typically very afraid of losing the relationship. Like any little thing that happens in the relationship, like tiny, like even like the smallest challenges tend to trigger a lot of anxiety for that person, and because they're afraid that they're going to lose the relationship. And the way this impacts your health, so just think about it. Like imagine if you were anxious like all the time, right? Like, so not only like during maybe like a little bit here, a little bit there, which is normal, but like if you had an anxiety all the time, like can you imagine what happens to your organs, right? Like your adrenals pretty much never shut down, never get opportunity to rest, and you know, a lot of other stuff happens in the body, and so that erodes people's health pretty quick. And then people with anxious attachment also tend to develop, you know, sometimes they have eating disorders or like emotional eating, because they try to soothe themselves. They feel so anxious, they need something to soothe themselves. And, you know, and they develop just different ways to soothe themselves. And oftentimes these ways are not very functional. So that impacts health as well. And then the last attachment style it's called disorganized. And I would say this is the most challenging attachment to work with, because what happens is that, okay, so the child is born and they have a natural instinct to attach. And at the same time, a child has a natural instinct to protect themselves. And what happens in this situation is that the caregivers are typically, you know, they're dangerous in some way. They might be emotionally explosive, you know, like maybe really angry, or, you know, they're just some sort of danger comes towards the child. So what happens is that it's kind of like, it's almost like having one foot on the gas pedal and one foot on the brakes. The child wants to come close because they want to attach, and at the same time they want to protect themselves, so they move back and they freeze. So like the internal state is the person is frozen. And I'm sure you can imagine how it impacts your health, like, right? Like and especially these people tend to have trouble breathing, because their muscles, the belly muscles, are so tight because of all the stress that they can't inhale fully, which impacts the organs in a very big way. And they also have a lot of very difficult emotions, because it's really confusing when you naturally want to love somebody and you want to be loved, and at the same time you get like a very strange kind of dangerous response. So they end up, you know, they typically have like a lot of anger, a lot of they worry a lot, they feel helpless very often, and all of these emotions really impact your health like in a big way. So those are the attachment styles. And now for me, what was happening, I have a disorganized attachment. At least I'm about 90% more secure now. I'm very happy about that. And what was happening for me, what I realized from my own research, is that even though I was eating healthy, I was sleeping, I was exercising, because my nervous system was frozen, pretty much frozen in fight or flight, my organs weren't functioning properly. So what I've done on my own journey is that I basically learned a lot of techniques to self-soothe in a healthy way, and also release the memory from the nervous system, because it's really important to do that, like, because our nervous system basically gets programmed the way our lifestyle goes. So our nervous system is programmed in response. So yeah, I just went through this process of reprogramming my nervous system, reprogramming my belief system, which also helped to reprogram the nervous system, and just learning healthy coping mechanisms, and also learning to see the world in a different way, because I used to see the world like the world is very dangerous. I would go outside and I would be around people and I would feel tension, because in my mind it was programmed to see people as dangerous. So I reprogrammed that, and now when I go out into the world, I actually feel like okay, I can connect with people. I feel safe and I feel relaxed. And I'm sure you know that the most important state for us to be healthy is harmony. Like, we need to have a consistent state of ease. So that's what I've done for myself. And now I healed my adrenal fatigue. I don't no longer have that, and I have my energy back. Like, I'm back. I'm back to my normal self. So that's sort of.
I was writing down so many notes. I can't even respond right now. I just think you just solved everything. And so I just love it because, I think when we talk about stress, especially, or having all these emotions or dealing with our health, we try to fix, far too often are we trying to fix our habits and our actions versus, going back to our beliefs, going back to, the very nature of us all needing to attach when we were kids, and so I love that you always, you're going to the deeper work. And that's something that I try to do with people as well, is like, can we go deeper? Because I bet you, like, my experience with, I've had overeating, I've had undereating, I've had all those disorders. And as you're describing, I'm like, I've been healed of a lot, but I definitely can see how in the past I was the anxious type for sure. I'm like, you just described my life. But it's just so amazing because it's funny that we're talking now. I'm going to put this on air too, because I've actually been thinking a lot about relational things and stuff around attachment. I don't think I would have called it that. And just seeing how certain, relationships in the past, friendships and all these different things affect how I relate to people now or to relate to myself now. And it's just interesting to go back and I'm actually in the season of saying, I really need to deal with this because yes, I'm quote unquote healthy, right? But if I need to practice what I preach and be healthy in all areas of my life, I need to look at this stuff and go deeper myself. And it's painful. And that's why we don't want to do it, because it brings up emotions. It brings up things we've been suppressing for years. And I just think it's so amazing that that's the deeper work that you do with people. You're a gift. I can just say that from now.
Thank you. And I wanted to say also, how you're talking about nutrition and all of that. Basically, what it is metabolizing our past. What we need to do is to metabolize our past. And, if our past is a little bit challenging, exactly like you're saying, it's hard. And that's why people often don't really want to do it, because it's challenging. But really the key, it's almost like, so I guess another aspect of anxious and disorganized attachment is that people often have digestive issues. They have, they might call it sensitive digestion, or they literally have inability, digestive problems. And the reason for that is that, it's a long story. I don't want to give you like a science lecture here, but
tell us the science. I love it.
Well, what happens is that in our brainstem, that's where our instincts are. The brainstem is responsible for our instinctual behavior. And if we haven't metabolized the past, meaning if we haven't processed all the challenging stuff from the past, the brainstem is stuck. It's basically stuck in fight or flight. But what happens is that the brainstem, so basically it goes down, the spine, and then there's nerves coming out from the spine that go into the digestive organs. And if the brainstem keeps sending out fight or flight signals, meaning that you're in danger, what happens is that the organs basically shut down. I mean, not fully, obviously, because we're still alive, but they don't operate to a full capacity, and especially digestion, because I'm sure you know that, when fight or flight happens, blood goes out to the limbs, our pupils dilate, and blood basically goes away from our organs. And especially from digestion, because you don't really need to digest anything if you're running away from a lion, right? Like, that can wait. So, but if you experienced, a lot of, maybe it's not even a lot, sometimes it could be just a little bit, but if challenging experiences from the past are not processed, basically our digestion never functions 100%. And, you know, you could eat the most healthy organic food, you can take the best supplements out there, but if the nervous system is shut down, it's, you know, it's a waste of time, and really it's a waste of money. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah. So good. I love how, and you know, again, I just love how you're sharing with us behind the scenes stuff of emotionally and physiologically what happens when you're actually stressed and you chronically stay stressed, right? And I think we're living in an age where we are probably, it's easy to be more stressed than ever. We can constantly be bombarded with information. We, you know, even in regards to sleep, like the fact that because we have so many lights, because we have technology, all these things, our sleep time has like diminished by like all these things. And typically we're doing things that cause us stress that we don't even realize. And so just love how you're just calling us to examine, to go deeper. So tell us a little bit. I know you have a program coming up, Alive with Possibility, right? And I know that you will address some of this stuff. So tell us a little bit about the program. What is, if people are listening right now and they're like, she's speaking my language, I really need to get help in this area, because I too have been trying everything, or I didn't even recognize that that's maybe been holding me back in my health. Tell us a little bit about what the program entails and what it's about.
Yeah, so, well, it's basically, the reason I designed this program is because I want to help, this is for women only. So I want to help women to move from, I only work with anxious and disorganized attachment styles. So women who have these styles, I really want them to move towards secure, because first of all, it's absolutely doable. It's like, I thought that I'm honestly, like, when I just started researching this, I thought I'm screwed because I was like, okay, so now I know what the problem is, but like, what do I do about it, right? But then the more I researched this, I realized it's actually absolutely fixable. Like, it's not, you know, if you have an anxious attachment style, or even avoidant, I just don't work with avoidant attachment, but disorganized, you absolutely can shift towards secure. And that's what I want to do in this program. I designed it. So one thing that we're going to be doing is that I'm going to help women to neutralize those triggers from the nervous system. Because here's the thing, like, you can do a lot of mindset work, you can do a lot of you know, affirmations and all of that, but until you release those patterns from your nervous system, the nervous system will take over. So that's one thing I'm going to help with. And then another thing is that attachment wounds are created in a relationship. So, which means that you can't really heal attachment wounds by reading a book or by listening to a program. You need to actually interact, and you need to practice being insecure dynamic with other people. And that's exactly really the purpose of this program, because I want to give people an opportunity, not just to, because, you know, like, I could have just wrote a book, but I want people to have the opportunity to actually practice in real life, new ways of being, new ways of showing up in the world, new ways of responding to others, you know, and also new ways of responding to yourself, and also to kind of find a new relationship. I call it the greater field of life, you know, like, we can call it whatever you want, the universe, chi, prana, life force, and just like find a new relationship with this energy in a way that you can actually trust that, even though our little human experience, right, like, we're powerful, we have skills, we have capacities, but in the grand scheme of things, we're pretty, you know, we're little, right? Like, we're little humans. And sometimes when challenges hit, which everybody has challenges in their life, it's really important to have this foundation of trust that all of life is organizing around our success and flourishing, and really find this place of trust that life is on our side, and that life is benevolent, and that life is really supporting us. So that's really, you know, like the gist of what I want to do in this program is, you know, help women up level their, I call, you know, it's really, you know, EQ, right? Emotional intelligence. So like help women up level their emotional intelligence and become much more secure in themselves and in their life.
Wow, so amazing. So tell us a little bit about like what the program entails. When does it start? Like what would it look like? Is it a group coaching program? Is it a one-on-one? Tell us a little bit about that, as much as you can in that moment.
Yeah. So it could be both. It's if I have enough people, you know, to come at the same time that is going to make it into a group, then we'll do a group coaching, or I might do just one-on-ones. It basically whatever the customer wants. Like it can be done either one-on-one, so we can practice just, you know, her and I, or I might create a group field where I'll basically help people to practice with each other. So we'll see how it goes. I haven't decided on that yet. So and it's going to be 4-month program. And the first month, we're just going to focus on healing our relationship with ourselves and getting clear on our values and needs, which I find that a lot of people, especially with anxious attachment, women have a very hard time knowing what they need, because they typically are so focused on the other person that they are not really in touch with themselves and their own needs. So we'll work on that. And also, for sure, we're going to work on transforming self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors as it relates to ourselves. So, for example, I remember I had a story back then, a while ago, that said that I'm alone, you know, even though like I have people in my life, I felt that if something serious happens, I'm alone. And that kind of belief is a very challenge, you know, it's really hard on us because, you know, it impacts the way we show up in the world in a very big way. And what I transformed this belief into is that I have all the support that I need, and I'm able to generate support. And at first it didn't feel like I couldn't believe it, like it didn't feel believable at all. But the more I practiced showing up in a new way, in a way that I actually could generate support, I actually ended up like, I have so much support right now that I'm like, honestly, like it's unbelievable. I feel that I can go to anybody. Like if I need anything, I always have someone that I can reach out to and get help. And that's amazing. So that's just an example from me. And we'll just work through belief systems, whatever the client has. And then, and what is going to help the person, it's like when we transform our beliefs, false beliefs about ourselves, it really opens us up to living a really joyful life. Because, for example, another example, like for example, you know, some people have this belief, I'm not enough, you know, and they just go through their life and they do things, and in the back of their mind it's like, I'm not enough, I didn't do this well enough, I didn't do that, you know. And it's really depressing, isn't it? It's like, seriously. Like,
yeah, it is.
And once you transform that belief and you realize that, you know what, I'm more than enough, I'm more than enough, I don't need to be anything else other than who I am, then it really creates this ease in your body. Like your body is able to relax and you're not as stressed out anymore. So that's kind of what it's going to help people with. And then we're going to move into month 2. And here we're going to work on our intuitive capacities. Because I find that especially women with anxious or disorganized attachment, they actually have a pretty strong intuition already. Because we learned as children that we need to sort of know what the other person needs so that we can be there for them And this way we get some sort of connection. So we're very intuitive, like we can sense into what others need. And what I want to help women do is take this skill, which is an amazing skill, and turn it towards themselves, and use this skill to really understand how they need to be healed. So basically, use their intuitive capacities to understand what they uniquely need in order to be healthy and well. Because we can go to practitioners, we can go to holistic health coaches, we can, but here's the thing: the coach only sees you for like an hour, right? And they can only go but what you report, right? Like they don't really know you on the inside. So they, in a way, getting advice from others without being intuitively connected with ourselves is, it's not particularly, it's not optimal. It definitely helps. It's, it's really important to ask the advice of people who know something that you don't know, but it's really important to choose your practitioners intuitively. So, so for example, a while ago, I ended up eating a lot of oysters, raw oysters. I'm never doing that again. And I ended up with an infection, an infection in my digestive system. And I didn't know what to do, even though, again, like I am a health coach, but I wasn't sure what to do. And I looked through, my books, and I researched, and then I was like, you know what? My intuition is telling me that I need to study Chinese food reflexology. Why? I have no idea. I never studied it before. I never thought about it before, but that's what my intuition is telling me. And I found a course, and I learned Chinese food reflexology, and that's exactly what I needed. So the infection is gone. I'm fine now, and I was able to heal myself this way. So I want to help women to be able to not just go around, from practitioner to practitioner to practitioner, trying to find solutions, but to first go within and really understand what their intuition is telling them about their unique needs. And then you can find a practitioner who meets that, so who is aligned with that. And it just makes it much more powerful this way. So I want to empower women in that way. So, and also I want to help women to learn how to manifest things. There's a lot of talk about the law of attraction and, all the other stuff, basically a lot of talk about manifestation. But I find that oftentimes the way it's taught, it's almost like there's a power outside of you that you need to somehow impact so something manifests, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, it's not consistent. But what I found in my own research is that there's a way to manifest things that comes from within. And the way to do it is we need to bring our body in a state of harmony and in a state of full alignment with what we want to manifest. And this way, an energetic charge is getting created, and that's what attracts the manifestation to us. So that's another thing I'm going to be teaching, is how to bring ourselves into alignment first, so that the manifestation comes consistently. Like, we have full power over it. Like, it's not, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? I don't know. Like, hopefully it's like a consistent experience. And when we are able to manifest things, it takes a lot of work off of our shoulders. Like, we, instead of manually doing the work, we actually can manifest it. We can actually like make it happen just energetically. So, and this way we have much more time to rest, much more time to have fun, and it just clears our schedule, like opens up space for a lot of other things. So that's going to be in the second month. And then in the third and fourth months, we're going to be focusing on relationships. So it's going to be, we're going to be working on transforming our beliefs and behaviors in terms of relationships. If we have, for example, if we have a belief that, you know, others don't like, or let's take men as an example. So like maybe someone has a belief, men wouldn't want someone like me, right? What does that create in your life, right? Like if you have that belief, you know, like, are you actually going to be able to have a healthy relationship with a man? Probably not, right? Because you're probably going to choose someone that you're not really afraid to lose, right? Because if they don't end up not wanting you, at least you're going to want to protect yourself somehow. And it just creates a very hard time to have healthy relationships. So we're going to transform those beliefs. We're going to learn how to set healthy boundaries with people. And now there's a lot of talk about healthy boundaries, which I'm actually really happy about. But what I find is that people tend to, when they just learn, like just in the beginning, when they learn to set boundaries, it ends up being pretty aggressive. It kind of ends up being like, so let's say you just like said yes to everything, and then you realize, I don't know, like I don't really want to say yes to everything. And then the person might say, I'm not going to do this for you, you know, like, and that,
yeah,
right?
They go on the opposite end of like totally extreme.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but that doesn't really, I mean, it might stop people from asking us from doing too much, but it also damages the relationship, right? Because I know that if someone was aggressive with me, I probably would, you know, stay away from them. So what I'm going to be teaching women is how to set boundaries in a very graceful way, and in a way that actually inspire the other person to even provide more, not even just what we ask for, but even more, and so that you know, people can have healthy and harmonious dynamics in relationships. And then we're just going to integrate everything that we've done in the whole program, and also come up with the next steps, because I don't actually want to, you know, people going to finish the program and then I don't want them to just drop off, right? And so we're going to really get clear on the next steps and how women will be able to implement everything they learned in the program, and, you know, what kind of support they need going forward, and basically prepare them for their new life once it's finished. And then the final thing is I'm going to have quite a few master classes added to the program, and there's going to be a masterclass about, it's called conscious uncoupling. So it's about, if let's say someone's going through a breakup, how to uncouple in a healthy way, in a way that, you know, maintains harmony and kind of protects your heart. There's going to be coloring the one masterclass. That's the opposite. It's attracting love. There's going to be a masterclass about how to release emotions from our muscles, because emotions are not only get stored in the nervous system, they also get stored in our muscles. So we need to release that. There will be a masterclass about how to heal eating disorders, and not just eating disorders, but like a lot of the self-sabotaging behaviors that especially anxiously attached women tend to have. And there's going to be a few other ones. There's going to be one about healthy communication, so how to have you know, generative communication skills. And there's going to be a few other ones which I don't remember right now. So
it's a lot of value in that program, so it's definitely something I think, man, amazing. Yeah, you cover like so much, I think, and it's such a gift that you offer this in this online space too, because I just feel like the work that you do, and even like what I've been meeting a lot of coaches do, it's so much deeper than what's on our plate, right? And you can definitely help people with that, but you're trying to really make them be restored to who they're meant to be and have this full, joyful, and thriving life.
Yeah.
And I mean, your program just sounds amazing. So if people wanted to check it out, tell us a little bit, before we get into your giveaways, tell us a little bit about your where people can find you on social media, your website, and a little bit more about the program.
So I have a website that's called www.holisticselfcarecommunity.com. And that's just my general website. And if people want to just have a conversation about this and, have a breakthrough of some sort, I offer a Get Unstuck breakthrough session, and they can book that session from my website. And then I have, so there's, I'm just looking up the link here. It's a little bit long. So the link to the description of my program is, so it's the same thing. It's holisticselfcarecommunity.com/alive-with-possibility. And that's basically like a full description of this program, and there's an information session there, and like all the modules are described there. So yeah, people can.
Great. And I will definitely link those into the blog posts, everyone listening. So be sure you check out the blog post with all the links. Well, I just feel so full. Like, I just feel like you described everything that I love. It's just so hard to narrow in sometimes, but I'm just so glad you do this deeper work with women. And you're such a gift in this space. Just know that. So can you tell us a little bit more about the workshop you have coming up in October? If people want to kind of get introduced to you and kind of the things you talk about, as well as your giveaway around the workshop.
Yeah. So the workshop is, it's actually going to be September 15th.
Oh.
But I'll do it again.
Okay.
So, and this workshop, I'll basically be demonstrating aspects of this work and to show people what it's all about. And it's called Getting Unstuck. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a belief, basically, like if someone has a challenge of some sort in their life right now, maybe they're trying to lose weight and it's just not happening. They're doing all the right things, but it's not happening. Then we're going to look at that, and we're going to really get clear on what is the false belief about ourselves, what is the false belief about others, what is the false belief about how life is supporting us. And then we're going to transform these so that the person can start showing up in new ways in their life. And when they show up in new ways, that's where things start to actually change, and transform and improve. So that's really what it's all about. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'll link in the link too. So if those listening in October can check it out too. Yeah. And then you have an ebook that you are giving away. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this ebook came about, I've been teaching a 7-week course about holistic self-care. And I created this just to help women, again, like anxious and disorganized attachment women, to find a way to, first of all, come back to themselves and really get clear on their needs and their values and what they specifically need to be healthy, happy, and well. And so there's 7 chapters in this ebook, and I have, not every chapter has reflection questions, but most of the chapters do. And basically, women will be able to answer these questions and really get clear on what they specifically need. So it's not what someone else tells them that they need, but what is it that they need in order to have a healthy and happy life. So that's what it's going to be all about. And I just also want to say, like, what I'm designing, like this whole program and the giveaways, my goal is to shave off tons of time off people's learning curve, because when we go right to the core of the issue, you can actually save yourself years of trying to figure out what's wrong, how to fix it. And your transformation can be like just so fast that it's almost unbelievable. Like I know it because I experienced it in my own life, and I experienced it with my clients as well. It's like when we do this kind of work, the shifts in our lives happen very fast. So that's my whole purpose. Like I really want women to like have a good life, be happy, and really enjoy their existence.
And I can definitely see that. So, I mean, anyone listening in, this definitely, we almost talked for an hour and it just felt like it went by, just because you have so much experience and so much knowledge, but you have a heart. I think most of all is that you have a heart to see women, as you just said, have this healthy, thriving, joyful, abundant life. So grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Julia. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've learned so much. I've had like 6 pages of notes already. I was like writing it down furiously. And guys, please, if you're listening, please go check out all of the links that Julia mentioned, because I just think she's on it. She's on to something that it's really about that deeper work. And if you're listening to, be sure to check out the link. I'm doing a Stress Less, Sleep More challenge this month. And so definitely check out the link for that, so you can kind of get some starter tips around how to really thrive in those areas as well. So thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you.